Thank you so much. And War Eagle, everybody. It's a very exciting day, and I'm just honored to be able to spend some time with you all as you come into the engineering school. I was very impressed with the numbers of women who are coming into the entering class in engineering at Auburn. I believe it is almost a third, over 300 out of 1,000 entering freshmen coming in. So it's very exciting, or transfers coming into the engineering school. So it's very exciting. And for each of you who are coming into the School of Engineering, some of you have had Auburn in your blood for generations, your parents. Some of you, your parents have gone elsewhere to school. Some of you may be like I was when I went into Auburn so many years ago. I was the first person in my family to ever even go to college. My dad was on the streets at 14. His parents were alcoholic. My mom was ninth of 9 kids of a very poor farmer in Alabama. And so when I came to Auburn, it was the first to go to college on either side of my family, and it was in engineering, and it was pretty daunting, actually. And I just have to tell you that everything that I've been able to do professionally, there is a foundation that I built at Auburn, and specifically in the College of Engineering, that I just don't think there's a substitute for. So what I want to come back to, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to come back in a few minutes when I finish my remarks, back to this question for each one of you coming in to the College of Engineering. And that is, what is your purpose? You know, it's one thing to go and say, I want to be an engineer, and that's wonderful, but what is your purpose? And you may not have that totally figured out yet, and that's okay. When I came into Auburn, I knew a few things. I knew that I wanted to challenge and stretch myself, and I knew I wanted to do something that made a difference. And I didn't know exactly what the details of that were, but I did know that I wanted it to be bigger, and I wanted my life, my profession, to matter in a way that I could be proud of. And so I worked hard. There weren't a lot of female engineering graduates in the early 1980s. I was very blessed to have amazing professors and support, and the dean and everyone at the school. And the thing that was important to me when I came out is I decided that my purpose was critical services. So the first 31 years of my career, I spent at Southern Company, Alabama Power. I worked for Gulf Power. I worked for Southern Company Generation. I worked in many different areas. And then about 7.5 years ago, I had a chance to go to New Jersey and run the largest water utility in the United States. And this was the culmination of my purpose, and I'll tell you why. Number one, I got a chance to be CEO of a company, which it wasn't about the power or the position. My purpose was to show that a company could be financially successful and still be great to its employees, be wonderful to its customers, make communities stronger because the company is there, as well as protect the planet. And I was able to work with a company and work with over 7,000 coworkers who were part of that vision of sustainable water for generations to come, serving 1,600 communities across the United States, as different as Carmel, California, which is very wealthy, to Gary, Indiana, or East St. Louis, or Long Island, New York. And it really made a difference because our vision was that no matter where someone was, how much money they made, where they were socioeconomically, every person deserved safe, clean water. They deserved to have it when they needed it, when they could afford it. And it really made a difference. So what was most important to me over my career, and I retired this year actually, was to show that you could be financially successful. Over the 6 years I was CEO, the financial returns of our company were 2.5 times what the S&P 500 returns were. So we were 2.5 times more financially successful than the Standard & Poor's 500. We were at one of the companies are in the Standard & Poor's 500. But I'm also proud that we were in the NAACP's inaugural equity fund, investment fund. We were in Bloomberg's Gender Equality Index. There's a disability equity inclusion index that we scored a perfect 100. We were best for vets as well as best for vet spouses. And in the communities we served, people were better off because we were there, because we were not just donating money from a foundation. Our employees were the ones at Habitat for Humanity or Cancer Society or whatever was going on in those communities. So that purpose that I thought about when I was a student at Auburn in engineering helped kind of define the path that I was on, even though I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. So I want to go back to, so how do you find your purpose, and how do you, based on what you want to do with your life, what you know right now, and it will change and that's okay, but what are the things that engineering does for you? And when I look back, one of the reasons that I was able to progress and go into executive ranks is the credibility that an Auburn engineering degree gave me. When I was interviewing for jobs, I had multiple job offers, and just having graduated from Auburn in engineering had a credibility that not only was I able to do a job, but I was able to learn. And it was critically important. The second thing is the versatility and optionality you have with an engineering degree. One of the things, if you love the technical side, you can go on and do engineering work and be a professional engineer and do all kinds of wonderful things, whether it's building bridges or Peace Corps or sustainable water or technology. There's so many things you can do as an engineer. But an engineering degree is so versatile that one thing I did, I went back and got a master's in business administration and went to the management route because I loved the leadership, the people. And even though I went into the more business side of the business eventually, having that engineering degree gave me knowledge, confidence, the ability to ask questions and understand really technical information when I was a leader in management, whereas maybe I didn't do the highly technical things every day. I understood it and had the credibility to lead an organization, or an organization that's able to do that. So those were two really important things. So as you're looking at finding your purpose, what I want to do is share with you 3 pieces of advice. The first thing I would tell you is, very practically, you can do this. It's not going to be easy. It will be challenging. Many of your friends who aren't majoring in engineering may have a lot of extra time that you don't have. You will study a lot. You will do a lot, but you can do this. There is nothing in life that has great value that comes easily. The things that matter the most, the things that you treasure, the things you learn about yourself the most, are those things you have to work for. So it's not going to be easy, but you can do it. The second thing is, you may be wondering, well, I want to do all these great things. I want to develop a new technology that will make the world better in a way that is sustainable, for sustainable power or sustainable energy, or my business of water, or technology, or whatever it is. So you're in your classes like, so why do I have to do all of these calculus classes? And why do I have to do statics or mechanics or circuitry? But here's the thing to remember, as you're in the details in your classes and you're thinking, but I want to do something bigger picture. Every beautiful, strong building has to have a foundation. And where every piece of art has to start with basic colors and a canvas. You can't build something beautiful and creative and artistic without a solid foundation. And what engineering does is show you how the world works, why things are the way they are, and how you can set such a strong foundation that you can build anything of beauty on top of it. So you have to keep the big picture in mind as you're going through the classes, and remember your purpose and what you're in this for. And the last thing I'll share with you is this, and that is, it's related to the first one about it's not going to be easy, and that is have confidence. Have confidence in yourself, have confidence in your abilities, your skills, and know that it's going to be hard, but that doesn't mean you can't do it and that you can't do a great job of it. I want to share a couple of stories that get to this idea of, don't let anybody tell you you can't do something, and don't let anybody take your power away. So when I started as a nuclear power plant engineer, when I graduated from Auburn, I had a supervisor, and this was several years ago, and it is thankfully not like this now. I won't say that it's not anywhere, but my supervisor didn't think women should be engineers. And so I worked very hard and was able to do so many things, and I kept getting mediocre performance reviews. And finally I went to him and I said, what do I need to do? You know, I've done X, Y, and Z. And he very genuinely looked at me and said, you're doing a great job, but I saved the high marks for the men that have children so that I can give them more money. And again, this doesn't happen today, thank goodness, hardly anywhere. But I remember he had lied to me. He had put obstacles in my way. He'd done things that weren't really helpful. But I decided he wasn't going to have the power. And what I did was I had a choice to make. I could be bitter and angry and blame him, or I could realize that this was his problem, not mine. And I was going to show him how good I was and others. And I did that. And choosing that choice instead of the first choice, I think is why I ended up where I did in my profession, in my career. Interestingly, within 2 years, I had received a promotion, 2 promotions, and he had been demoted. And it wasn't that I did anything or said anything. It's just that I had decided that I was going to live my life and keep my power. And the last story that I'll share with you is an incredible woman that I worked with at American Water. Hopefully you never have challenges like this, but if you think your challenges are big, one day I want you to remember the story of Angelita Fasnacht. Angelita grew up in Colombia, and Angelita is a civil engineer. Angelita, after she got her civil engineering degree, went to work for a small water company in the country of Colombia, outside the main city of Bogota. And her goal was clean water. There were villages where women and girls still walked 5 miles to get water, to cook, to clean, for basic sanitary purposes. And she had a small team of people, and within 2 years, she helped bring clean water to 50,000 people in this small jungle area. But here was the problem. There was a terrorist group called FARC, and this terrorist group didn't like Angelita doing this because they had the women and girls and the women's husbands pay a fee for protection as they walked to get water 5 miles away. So these terrorists kidnapped Angelita, and she was held in captivity for 32 days. And they finally told her, they said, "We will let you go if you leave this country and never come back, or if you don't, we will kill you and your family." So with $2,500 and not speaking English, she came to the US about 15 years ago. Today, Angelita has a PhD, and she has a civil engineering undergraduate, PhD in water quality. She has 4 kids. She met a guy at Emory in Atlanta, and they moved to New Jersey. And she now not only is leading research on water technology and water quality, but she's still leading an international organization for clean water. So here's the thing, when you have an engineering undergraduate, you can do anything. You can do anything. So whatever your dream is, whatever you want to do, just grab it and know that you are on your journey to getting there by doing exactly what you're doing, which is starting and getting that wonderful engineering undergraduate degree, maybe master's one day from Auburn University. So I'll stop, and Diane, I don't know, or if we have time for a couple of questions. Natalie?
I don't know that. Oh, I was just clapping. I didn't have a question. I'm sorry. Nice speech. Thank you.
So Diane, can we open this up for some questions for Susan?
I did see one question come across that asked what the biggest obstacle was.
Great.
So, you know, it's interesting from an obstacle standpoint. I think it was, there will be times when, you know, it's great to have a wonderful support structure. You don't always have that. And that's why relying on the basis of the confidence you have in what you're able to do, trust yourself. And again, there are going to be people for all kinds of reasons who are not going to be as supportive as you think they should be. But also, I think it is just a positive attitude. One of the biggest things is that I never listened to the people who said I couldn't or I shouldn't. It was always listening to that voice inside and searching out the people who I know cared about me and were encouraging. And the other thing is that I really didn't think a lot about myself. I tell you, the best way for you to grow and to be a leader is to put all of your time and energy into the people that you lead. I really believe in this concept of servant leadership. And every single person, maybe it's because the way I grew up, But when I left American Water has 49% of employees are union represented, and they're everywhere from Long Island, New York, to California, to Tennessee. And this big burly union lead president guy from Long Island, New York, is like 6'4", 250 pounds. And he was my buddy. And when they had a retirement function for me, and he had tears in his eyes and I had tears in my eyes. And I just have to tell you, when you really, engineering helps you understand what's that frontline person doing? What are these people doing? Do I understand? Do I have a heart for them? And whenever I found myself saying, well, I don't think I'm being treated fairly, I started pouring myself into others, and then it just worked out.
So Susan, one of the questions that just came in, sorry, Diane, why don't you take the lead on that?
Oh, no, this is exactly how we were hoping to do it. So we can take turns if you like. I do see one. As a CEO, how did you make sure you were responsible? You were a responsible company by taking care of employees and their families.
So one of the things that we did, interestingly, in the South in corporations, this is little things are big things. So we had Dr. King Day was always a holiday. So I go up to American Water in New Jersey, and it's a national company, and Dr. King Day wasn't a holiday. And I was just appalled at that, honestly. And so typically you're supposed to negotiate. There were 15 different unions, 78 local contracts across the country. And finally I got to the executive team and I said, the right thing for us to do is just to give everybody an extra holiday. There was a cost to it. And we did it. And there was no change in productivity. The people did an amazing job. Another thing that we did was safety was my top priority. And while you have to be efficient, I told our employees, we may have to reduce cost in some areas, but any piece of equipment you need for safety, you're going to get it, period. I don't care what it costs. If you need better PPE, protective equipment, you're going to get it. And you're going to get safety training like you've never had before, even if we're in a time of cutting budgets, because the number one goal was that every person would go home to his or her family in as good a shape as they came to work. And what I found was when you really care about your employees and safety really is number one, and I'm out there talking to them on the front lines, and I'm out there when they're doing the jobs and saying, are you getting everything you need for safety? It tells people they really do care about me. And a lot of the other stuff takes care of itself.
So that last question we should note was from Grace. And this next question looks like it comes from Angela Fanny, and it has to do with your confidence. Is your confidence natural or learned?
It is.
And how did you
both.
gain confidence?
So you're not really confident when you're in your 20s, teens, 20s. It's something that you build. And the interesting thing was the confidence is built as you attack small things and you're successful, which is why I go back to you're in classes. These may not seem sometimes like the biggest picture things, but it builds the success of I'm able to do that. I'll give you an example. So when I was in my late 30s, I was sent to Oxford University for 2 months for an executive education program. And here, grew up in Alabama, I'd been in the South, I'd not moved to New Jersey then. So everybody in my class, there were only 3 US citizens, people from all over the world. They were amazing people at Oxford. And I remember after the first week we were doing these classes, and I'm like, I can hang with these people. And then you go on, and it's just the things that your experiences help you understand. And I will tell you today, after meeting a lot of people, a lot of CEOs of some of the largest companies in the country, and we're all the same. We're all the same. People worry. The people you see that you think, oh, these people must believe in themselves every day and they never question it. We all do. We all do. I have yet to meet someone. I have met presidents of the United States. I have met CEOs of big companies. I have never met someone I've never met someone who had that healthy confidence. I have met people who are arrogant, which I think actually covers up insecurity more than it does. But just understand, you build that confidence every single small victory you have. The small thing, the little things are the big things. And if you have those times where you're not, welcome to the club, because everybody else is in there right with you.
I see a couple of questions that have a similar a similar goal. One is about your Auburn experience and where you plugged in, and others was how you managed juggling a professional career and your move into those leadership roles.
Yeah, so I mean, my Auburn, so I worked, I had to work my way through school because my family didn't have a lot of money, but I still was very involved. I was very involved in Society of Women Engineers. I was involved in the honoraries, the engineering honoraries, the physics honoraries, those type of things, class things where we did things for charity. In industrial engineering or engineering, I was very involved with those things. So I plugged into those areas that I had a big interest that I could, and also very social. So it was a great experience. It was just a great experience for me. And in terms of, what was the second part of the question? It was,
I'm sorry. Yes, there was a couple that had to do with juggling professional,
right.
personal goals and into your big leadership roles.
Yeah, so first of all, you're never going to be great and perfect at everything. We all try, but we want, and life is trade-offs based on where you are in your life. I am so amazingly blessed that I have a husband who is the most supportive person in the whole world. He is a physician. We would sit down and say, I have this opportunity. Should we go? Should we do it? And we would have a discussion, and we just were able to work those things out. And then as I had opportunities, it was moving to New Jersey after growing up in Alabama, going to school in Alabama, working most of my life in Georgia, Alabama, and Northwest Florida. But my husband said, hey, listen, you got this chance. You got a chance to have your own company. Go do it. I'm here to support you. And I was able to do it. And, there are Auburn people everywhere, which is fabulous. We've got people in Missouri and all from American Water, and I would go in and they would have War Eagle. It was just so amazing. And actually, from a diversity standpoint, our executive team at American Water included 4 people who graduated from SEC schools. So there you go, up in New Jersey. So we're everywhere. We're like kudzu is what I tell them. And I even had some people from New Jersey starting to use the word y'all. So I knew that I had been successful.